everyone. Tonight is our budget hearing presentation. I know many of you that have been here over the past few months have seen probably very similar budget. So this is a little bit more of a condensed version to kind of give you a 30,000 foot view of what the budget is this year. So our goals and objectives every year when we build the budget, obviously, to maintain and have high quality programs and services for students, control and reduce costs wherever possible, stay within the tax levy limit of New York State's property tax cap, find balance. Right? Finding balance is really important when we're building the budget. What are the school district's needs and what are the community's needs? And then be forward thinking and thinking in the future of what challenges might we face in the short term and a long-term perspective of what's coming down the pike for us. And then managing district resources effectively in order to support educational program excellence. So if you look at our budget at a glance, you're going to see an increase of about 6%. It's $52.8 million. So you see the revenue budget will equal the expense budget. You see that our state aid, which is really a significant revenue driver for us this year, of about 13.98%. So that's going to be a pretty significant part of this budget process tonight. Our tax levy is going to stay the same. We're going to go out at zero again for the second year in a row. So we're pleased to be able to do that for taxpayers. We have no reserves or fund balance allocated to this budget. And if we were to go out, just hypothetically, a 1% for us equals about $179,000, just for your understanding. So projected revenue. When you look here across the board, go down to state aid, right? That's the biggest jump for us. The state has fully funded foundation aid, which I know you've heard in several of the last meetings that we've had. That's about a $3.3 million increase in state aid. So that's a significant amount of funding that we just received. Appropriated fund balance is 1.6. Our appropriated fund balance for current capital projects is 900. So you get a total revenue budget again of up about 6%, and it's about $3 million. So our expenditure is important to note here. If you look at our instructional salaries, our non-instructional salaries, and you look at our benefits cost, and along with debt service, which is the $24 million capital project that we just completed, that would be the $1.4 million increase that you're seeing there. However, on the backside, we received the aid that's about equal to that $1.4 million. So we have a significantly high building aid rate. So when we do projects for construction or capital work around the district, we receive the majority of those funds back. So that number coming back, I think, is 1.387, somewhere in that ballpark. So it's pretty close to the 1.4. But when you add up the instructional salaries and you add up the benefits, you can see the difference there, and that's how you get to the $3 million mark. So included in our budget this year, we committed to smaller class sizes at the elementary schools during the pandemic, and we've continued with that. And we've had really good success with that so far. We've been able to keep those class sizes down small and really engage with students in the classroom. We have continued to advance our CTE program. So as you've probably heard previously, we have building trades, we have a heavy equipment program, we have animal science, and we're actually looking in this process of adding an additional ag teacher to that program because we have a pretty steadfast number of kids that are involved in the program. We have, again, our enrichment programs, which take place all year long, and then you know how our summer camp enrichment goes, where kids are here 5 days a week, are able to have breakfast and lunch every day, and also participate in many different learning activities throughout the summer. So we'll continue to expand those opportunities. We have an additional music teacher, which will allow us an opportunity to get a full-time music teacher in each of the elementary schools. Our music program is incredible. The numbers are continuing to rise, and we think that by pushing down music into a little bit lower grade levels, it could really enhance that program even more here for our district and the community. Library media specialists, we've heard some conversation around library media specialists adding. We're looking to do that as well. Student support services, which is really a big area. Our student support are really needed. We have students that are coming out of the pandemic and have been in the pandemic that are struggling with some mental health issues, and it's important that we're able to support them with the appropriate staff. So we've got a school psychologist, a social worker, and an elementary guidance counselor that we're going to add to the district. And then you're going to hear tonight in a presentation later at the meeting around continuing to implement career pathways and service learning opportunities, the cooperative partnerships that we have, internship opportunities, and college credits. And this all ties into our implementation and our grand opening, which will be on the 12th of our new career center at Owego Free Academy. So we're really excited about that coming together. We've done a lot of work, got a little bit disrupted during COVID for those couple of years because we weren't able to get kids out into the internships that we wanted to get them in because we want them to be able to have authentic experiences in their high school years. So budget timeline, just wrapping up, we're down the home stretch here. Tonight is the 9th, and then the vote will be on May 17th. Any questions?
You mentioned something, and I meant to ask last time around. You mentioned something about funding for foundation. What does
So foundation aid is a formula that the state has that they create for aid for each district.
Okay.
So depending on your wealth ratio of your district will determine what your foundation aid is going to be. So for years we were underfunded in foundation aid, so that's why we've seen such a big increase.
So it's just kind of a way of discussing funding.
It's a funding mechanism, and if Hague can't figure it out, nobody can.
Okay.
It's very confusing, but it's a formula that has many pieces to it, and the state's been doing this for years. But there was a point in time where they weren't following the formula the way they should have followed it, and now they've committed at least for the next 2 years to do that.
Yeah, it's just helpful to know that it's not like some separate entity.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I've always admired the Vestal budget newsletter in times past, because right on the front of it they put our academic achievements, Vestal, and here's what you're paying for.
Right.
Well, New York finally gave us some information last week, and now mind you, it's a little skewed clearly by COVID, but School Digger, a good legitimate rating thing, puts you at 64th in the state for the high school. Which is quite a rise from where it was. But that you sure do deserve. Tell the people what we're paying for,
Sure.
and I'll be happier to pay. It's easier to pay taxes that way. So, couple of questions. The employee benefits for the administrative, for the program function and the capital function, they didn't seem to increase very much relative to the employee benefits increase in the administrative function.
The difference in the number of employees, number of employees at each of the groups.
What is curriculum development and support?
That would be anything curriculum related. Is that under the administrative piece?
Yes.
Yeah. So any of our administration that's devoted their time towards curriculum and instruction. So we'll do a lot of curricular work in the district, professional development, things of that nature.
Okay, I don't quite understand that, but that's all right.
Yeah.
Now, at the first budget presentation, Ms. And it fits into the multi-year plan and what the goals, objectives, quantifiable, intangible are, which is working. I mean, if the finances were like the academics, I mean, we got another star.
We're working on it.
is there any way you can talk to the multi-year plan, how, you know, okay, here's the vertical and then there's the horizontal?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be careful with the multi-year plan, because we sit right now and we're receiving $3.3 million in foundation and aid. However, we probably know, looking at the economy, a recession is around the corner. So making sure that we have some funds put away for the rainy day, but then again, we don't know for sure if a recession is coming. So to be clear cut, I think what you're describing in a long range plan sometimes becomes difficult. Can we have a framework? Yeah, absolutely we can.
Which segues right into the thing that worries me most is anytime you have a change, it seems, depression, recession, depression, expansion, the ECR for TRS and ESR, regardless whether it's good or bad, how are we mitigating that risk?
It's challenging because again, we don't have control over that. So that number is just driven by what they determine and what percentage they want that to go up. I mean, we can control that from a staffing standpoint of how many staff we have that we're paying TRS for. But ultimately, we don't control and say why that goes up in the time of a recession when, if it's doing well, it should be down. Depending on the situation.
I just, that's kind of like an unbounded liability on the backs of the taxpayers, which is what it is. What metrics do you use or should be used in determining what amount of reserves the school carries? Particularly we see, if the numbers are the TRS and ESR, I think are the two, the predominant.
I'd have to pull the number. There's some benchmarks that come from the comptroller or past histories, but I think ultimately we talk about fund balance and reserves, we need to be prepared for rainy days. The last thing we want to do is get to a point where we have to lay off a bunch of staff in really difficult times. So I think that it's elevated a little bit right now, but I think for purpose, because we don't really know what's going to be coming down the road.
All right, I would just like to thank you. Just like to iterate that I do believe that hearing the public is something that belongs in the agenda, and we should have it tonight, unless unanimously voted not to have it.
Yeah, we have a public portion.
At the beginning.
At the
Hearing the public
used
to be part of the agenda, and the policy manual says that it will happen unless this board unanimously votes at that meeting.
It's updated. It's updated to reflect those.
So that's been taken out of it now. Okay, that's interesting.
But we're at the end still open to new business, old business, so it's still an opportunity there.
Okay. Because I thought the policy manual was wrapped up June 30th, 2020.
We're currently updating them again.
Oh.
Because there's a new version that came out. So
Okay.
by July 1, we plan to have them all updated and posted on the Word docs.
Okay. Thank you.
Orion, I have a question. Plan for hybrid and virtual instruction for next year. Is there a plan to do that?
Yes, in some fashion. Not that necessarily all staff are going to do that, but we're going to take a look at the numbers and determine what that looks like.
Okay, 'cause the reason I ask in terms of like revenue with students from out of district coming in, is that projected in?
Yeah, it would be projected in revenue. I mean, it's a tough projection to make because of COVID and people, just short term looking to do that. But we're taking a look at it. We're well aware of, that doesn't work for everybody. It doesn't work for everything. So I don't foresee it being done the way we did it this past year.
Okay, And, for the library, is the plan to have a librarian for each building, or?
One librarian and another staff member, and they'll share, they'll split between the two. Anybody else have any questions?
So to clarify, that's one librarian total, or one per building?
One librarian total between two elementary schools. And then there'll be another staff member that will be opposite when they're going back and forth.
The co-room free library, I probably don't understand it correctly, but funding for that is completely separate from this, right?
Yeah, it's completely separate. We're just required to communicate their information on our ballot.
Okay, and I did understand.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think they're both asking maybe for $5,000 increases in Appalachian and Culver.
Nice.
Yeah, so we don't have any control over that. We're just required to make sure that it's on the ballot as part of the vote.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, no
Make
problem.
Sure I understood it.
Sure.
Can you explain how the libraries are gonna work again? You said the Appalachian is gonna work with,
They're going to share. They'll go back and forth. So there'll be a librarian that'll run the program itself, but there'll also be another staff member to support.
and how's the library centers gonna be, how are you gonna work that? Is
What's that?
Appalachian Elementary's library gonna be like as it is?
No, it's actually currently being updated. We're updating it this summer as well. All new carpet and furniture and shelving and things of that nature. So it's going to get a nice facelift.
New books?
New books, yeah.
That would be essential.
What about the buses? Are they like energy efficient? I mean, that's 2027.
Yeah, we're not there yet in terms of that requirement. So we're still on the regular bus cycle until we find out how the state's going to handle that in terms of purchasing those buses and what's the phase-in plan look like for that.
Okay.
I have a question on, under your programs, you mentioned guidance and health. What does that mean?
What does it
Health?
mean?
Yeah, what's the health program?
It would be probably health services or nurses, right, Bob? I'm assuming guidance counselors are included in there.
Guidance and health,
It says guidance and then it says health.
health services would be nurses.
Right.
Call the meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I need a motion to accept this evening's agenda.
So moved.
Linda? Second. Danny? All in favor? Aye. Okay. Also need a motion to accept the minutes of the previous meeting. Danny?
Second.
Jason, any questions? All in favor? Aye. That's carried as well. Moving on to the personnel section of the consent agenda, I need a motion.
So moved.
Linda?
Second.
Stace, any questions regarding the personnel section of the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, that's carried as well. Okay, the remainder of the consent agenda, I need a motion.
So moved.
Jason?
Second.
Kathy? We have 4 items. Any questions regarding this? Okay, all in favor? Aye. That's carried as well. Okay, there is no president's report tonight. Mr. Green, are you? Mr. Green. Not yet, okay. Mr. Green, we'll pass it on to you. Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Really excited to have a couple folks here with us tonight and some of our young scholars here to present on some of the great things that they've been doing in the school district. So we have Mr. Heath, who is our robotics teacher in the high school. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Heath as he's got a couple of different presentations tonight.
So any of the kids who were part of the robotics competition, why don't you guys come on up front with us? Should we come up front here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hi, I'm John.
Hi.
Yes.
And you guys come on and we're going to address the board, so we're going to face this way. Thanks for having us. Over the last number of years, I've been fortunate to be part of a number of good things going on in the school, and robotics has certainly been one of those. Back in like the 2017-2018 school year, we started a 7th grade class that all kids in 7th grade took a 10-week robotic class, and interest in that class grew pretty quickly. We started a little lunch bunch robotics club from the kids who were really interested in it, and over the next 3 years we started going to some local competitions, and we did well in a lot of those competitions, but we were pretty much focused still on the middle school level platforms for the robotics. Our greatest interest in the club kind of developed into a more of an enrichment type of club over the years, and our greatest interest was leading into the April 2020 competition, and right before that competition happened, everything shut down. So we were a little concerned, this last year, since there was nothing last year with competitions, and we're a little bit concerned, was the interest still going to be there? And this is a small group of the students. Maybe you can introduce yourselves real quick. Start with Mike.
Michael Thompson, I'm a senior. Sean Spackner, I'm a sophomore.
I'm Sol Palladino, I'm an 8th grader. I'm Kathy Griffin, I'm a 5th grader.
I'm Olivia Bundy, I'm a sophomore. I'm Jordan Fernandez, and I'm a 7th grade.
I'm Liam Bell, and I'm also 7th grade.
I'm Elias Esposito, and I'm 7th grade.
I'm Gavin Allen, and I'm in 8th grade.
I'm Levi Saunders, and I'm in 7th grade.
I'm Joseph Grenier, and I'm in 8th grade.
So these are 11 students who were able to be with us tonight. We brought 25 kids to the competition just a few weeks ago, April 5th. This was a regional competition that SUNY Broome hosts, and they allow each school to put in 3 teams that can compete in 6 different categories. So you can fill 18 slots. Our school filled the most slots, so our interest, was great. We filled 17 out of 18 of those slots. Many other schools were half of that or just a fraction of that. So we put together a little video to kind of tell you a little bit about kinds of challenges that we did in that competition and how we did. And we had a few little interviews on there so you can meet some of the kids a little bit better. Then after we watch this, maybe you could ask the kids questions, or we could answer any questions that you have. I think, let's see what that is.
Are to match or improve that performance this year?
I myself, with the forklift, I got a stack of 7, so that's pretty good. Not a lot of other teams are getting a high stack, they're just going for small stacks. It's pretty fun, it's nice seeing like other people can do this, and like it's good to see if you have competition or not.
On April 5th, 25 students from the OA Robotics Club went head-to-head against teams of students from 14 other schools and came away from the regional competition as the grand champions.
A lot of people get wrong that it's just the building of the robots and driving and having fun just moving them around, but it's a lot more. It's working with the code and getting to know the robots and all the motors and the wires. I think that definitely working with the code has gotten a lot better. I was definitely a lot better at working and building before, but just this year I've gotten better at working with code and understanding it a lot better. And plus with learning C++ and just learning all about code.
Members of the team placed first, second, and third in many of their individual events, totaling 49 points for the first place Owego team, which was 20 points better than the second place school.
Hi, my name is Finley Higgins, and I'm a member of the Owego Robotics team, and I worked on the Maze Challenge. The Maze Challenge was a programming challenge where we had to go through a maze, but we didn't know what the maze looked like beforehand.
Hi, my name is Elias Esposito. I was at the robotics competition, and while I didn't really do any of the challenges, I managed to film some of the action and interview all of our participants and a few more.
My name is Isaac Bingley. I did the line follow for Owego, Team 3. It is a programming challenge where you use sensors to have a robot follow a line with the optional challenge of getting a puck from the green drop zone to the red end zone.
My name is Aiden Rhodes, and I placed first in the small slip away. I think the hardest thing about the challenge was going against some really tough opponents with some really unique builds. And those builds were kind of tough to handle sometimes, but I think our design was the best there.
My name is Michael Thompson. I competed in the large swiftly challenge, which was a driving challenge. It was a challenge where we had to put Nerf footballs and soccer balls over the wall. It was my first year doing it. It was a really fun time.
I'm Daniel Pavlik. This was my third year doing robotics competition. I did the Maze Challenge, which is an autonomous challenge. We started by building a robot that had distance sensors on every side, but we just couldn't get that to work. Or just the program was a bit too hard. We then went to doing more of a simplistic, just 3 sensor, like distance sensors, and that ended up getting us all to first place.
I'm Sam Biden.
And I'm Wyatt Tiernado Snow.
And we worked on the Maze Challenge.
It took us a long time to build it and program it.
We took second place overall in the competition.
We are OA. They did not want me to put that last part in there. So, a few of the kids, actually, Aiden Rhodes just stepped in. Just got back from a lacrosse game. You guys won? Yeah. Awesome. Contagious. So the video was actually put together by a couple of the kids in this group as well. They're in a little video club that we have that have been putting out some little feature videos. So we're also providing them with content for that. But competition like this, it's a lot like a track meet, right? There's a lot of different events, and some years you're not good in all the events, and this year it was nice because we had bumped up some of our skills in areas that we hadn't done so well in the past, and it turned out that they scored a lot of points. And it's funny, you know, you go to some of these things and you want to do well, and then as the awards ceremony is happening, it kept being Owego. You know, you're proud, but you're like, oh my gosh, you know, we just almost won everything, and then they won the overall. So I think they were proud. They probably put in a couple months worth of work during goal period and after school to it, and it was nice to see that pay off for them. So I'm sure if anybody has any questions for them, they can answer them for you, or I can help them.
How many other schools were there, John, there?
So there was 14 different schools that came. It was put on by our BOCES, and 14 different schools. Now, like I said, in those 18 slots that you could have filled, obviously the more slots that you fill, the better chance you have of getting more points. So I think that was very helpful that we had the interest. And it's not as easy as it sounds, because you have to have the equipment as well, because they won't let two different teams from WeGo share the same robot, so they each had to build their own, program their own, or drive their own. So that was, we had the pieces in place with the support over the last number of years to be able to field that many teams or fill that many slots.
So you're not only building the robots, you're programming the robots. So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of engineering going on as well as programming.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like when we first started going to these back, 2017, 18, we would show up and everybody's robot looked the same. You do what you were familiar with. And I give these guys a lot of credit, especially this year. The creativity and the unique builds really took off this year, and that was a testament to their hard work and led to a lot of extra points that they got. Yeah.
Anybody else have any questions?
Congratulations.
Yeah. Congratulations, everyone.
You would like it, Dan. It's a lot like a track meet.
Like any kind of
It's some organized chaos while you're working on it, and like the competition too. Yeah.
Don't feel bad about not getting questions when you're smarter than the people in the room. They don't know what to ask you.
Well, I'm glad you guys were all able to make it tonight. So you guys are welcome to have a seat.
Let's give them a hand.
We were just going to talk real quickly about the construction project. Is that like 1 minute?
Sure.
So? And then Macy, come on up for that. If you guys, the robotics guys, if you guys listen in the back for a minute, it would be like 5 minutes.
Good job, guys.
So one other really cool project that I was a part of, back in, I guess it was November, December. Well, that's when Mr. Francisco and Mr. Georgia first approached us about, hey, there's this, came to Mr. Carney and myself. Mr. Carney wasn't able to be here tonight, but he came to us and asked us if we were interested in putting in a team in this Kids Can Build competition. Again, it's another kind of, through the BT BOCES, regional type of competition where the idea is kids get about $2,500 to spend on cans. You have to come up with an idea and then build a structure. You get to pick any structure you want out of cans, and it's judged for what it looks like, how it was engineered, a variety of factors. And we had probably 8 kids that were part of that to start with. I'll let you guys introduce yourself.
I'm Michael Thompson.
Still Michael Thompson. And I'm Macy Cunningham.
And Chris Marinick was planning on being here, and Adam Gall, there was a Cameron Piccini, there was a number of other students who were part of this. And we also have the kids in the video club made another little video for this, just to kind of showcase what this project was about. Yeah, it's right here.
2 months ago, members of the OA Kids Can Build team went shopping in search for the perfect cans to be used in a unique engineering challenge.
From concept, the design to the end, it was a few months.
So we like the challenge that the engineering gave us.
On May 1st, their design was complete, and the team used more than 2,500 cans of food to build a Tetris-playing Game Boy like none other.
Well, it's a Game Boy playing Tetris, and I think we like the idea because it's vintage, but also modern because it's a video game. So we like that idea. And obviously we're teenagers, so we like video games, we gravitated towards that.
Competing against schools from around the region in 4 different award categories, the first year WeGo team brought home the win in the Best Use of Labels category.
What I loved most about this project was that anyone could step in and help, anyone could pitch in. It made the project more collaborative, and it was a really great experience overall.
projects?
Well, I said it in the video. What did you think,
I wasn't originally part of it. I was sitting in the lobby. I have a study hall, senior second through that. And I was sitting in the lobby and I saw Keith putting tape on the floor. I was like, that's a normal Keith thing to do. And then saw a whole bunch of cans coming in. I'm like, okay, what's happening? They told me what was happening. I was like, I'm not doing anything today. So I talked to the teachers and they're like, yeah, you can go, you can stack cans, I guess. I'll stack cans for a day. Sounds fun.
Yeah, that was a really interesting project to be a part of because there were so many hands that were involved with it. Mr. Carney and Chris Marinick put a lot of time in behind the scenes. The whole group, we all brainstormed a variety of ideas. We had to meet with a couple Lockheed engineer mentors who kind of steered us away from certain ideas that they didn't think might be structurally sound and helped us land on this particular design. But then the day of the build was amazing. I feel it was such an energizing day at school because, like Mike said, there were all these people who did a lot of behind the scenes, a lot of work for months leading up to it. Then the actual build day, we were building it in the lobby, and all these kids got interested. They were curious, they came up, they're like, what are you guys doing? Can I be a part of that? And our only requirement was they had to be a little OCD. They wanted to
Yeah. All the labels had to be facing.
So it was just another really neat project that we were a part of.
I didn't think so many people would get involved, and there were a lot of people who came up and just really wanted to help.
Not even all the people got involved. A lot of people were just coming up and asking about it, looking at it, and like, what's happening?
Yeah. So we know how to recruit for that club next year, is to do a mock build in September. And that's how we'll build the team. So.
I'm assuming the cans were all donated.
We just assembled it.
Awesome.
Yeah,
The entire area raised over $30,000.
Wow.
Yeah, and there was about 9 different school districts a part of that.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Heath, and all our students. You guys continue to make us proud, for sure. Now we have Mr. Farrell, Mr. Westcott, and I believe Mr. Daly that are going to give a presentation on our new career center. Yeah, if you guys want to go, you can. I'm sure you want out of here.
Mr. Westcott, you know how to clear a room.
Are you really adding something to the slide right now?
No, not the slide. The last presentation. I just wanted to add that last presentation. John didn't say it, but he's taken on during a study hall a group of 7th and 8th graders. I don't remember, 7th or 8th graders that were interested in video production. Him and Luke worked with the kids, but John took it on. So those videos that you saw were done by that middle school. It's not even elective, middle school extracurricular extra activity that John has taken on during the day. So Mr. Heath is obviously an example of one of those people that goes above and beyond, but he's taken that group of, I think, about a dozen, right, Luke? About a dozen kids, and they're starting to work with a lot of the equipment that Mr. McAvoy has, and they're putting out some pretty neat videos, and doing that all is just kind of an extra thing that they signed up for. So it's pretty neat that they're able to do that during the day, and it's great that John has taken that out.
This coming from a man who also goes above and
Well.
Just trying to throw that out there.
Yeah. So we went with Career Center. So we have been working this plan for quite a while, and as Mr. Green was saying, the public hearing, the pandemic really held us up on starting this, but because it's kind of hard to have a career center and not be able to have members from the public, specifically the business and local business and organizations, come into your building but we're finally past that, and now at a place where people can come into our buildings and we can start to operate or get our Career Center started. So as you know, we have been working with local businesses and organizations for a few years now with internships and co-ops, and specifically the big ones like Lockheed Martin and BOE, George Industries, New Visions, and going down that road. A little bit of a hangout again with the pandemic. We couldn't allow students out to their businesses. We're getting back to that now. So we wanted to take tonight just to talk about the Career Center, and of course its opening is on Thursday. But that's the media splash and the ability to show that this is going to be open. What I'd argue is that the operations of it and really getting it moving has already started well in advance. So we wanted to take you through that tonight and just talk about what's the vision of the Career Center and ultimately how does it line up with the district's mission. We'll talk about the Career Center personnel. You're pretty much looking at them. Those are the two right there. We'll talk about what their roles really are with Mr. Westcott as the K-12 career counselor and the center coordinator, and then Mr. Daly as the work-based learning coordinator, and what those two pieces are to the center and what they'll be doing in it. So we'll go to the next one. So as far as district vision and mission, I think it's important to come back to the work we did on reshaping and revising the district vision and mission. And what I did with this particular slide, or what we did with this particular slide, is break it down. So sometimes this looks like a lot of words, and people read it, and it sounds great, but when you really break it down into what's being said in these statements, it starts to make a little bit more sense. So when you're looking at the vision, there are key pieces and phrases inside of it. One, we're a collaborative organization. All right, we work as collaborative teams, not only within our own organization, but outside of it as well, in conjunction with the school community. The other thing is that we use innovative approaches. So the Career Center may seem like, well, you've seen Career Centers before, but they're typically not in public schools in the Northeast of the United States. You'll find them very commonly through the Southeast, through the West, and through most of the country. But in the upper Midwest and through the Northeast, you don't find it often inside of public education. What you're going to be hearing about over the next decade, coming out of most economic circles, is that jobs, right, are in major need. We obviously cannot fill employment right now, and in a lot of cases, college debt has increased substantially, and we need to have a workforce ready to go in order to meet the demands of our economy. And it's a changed economy as well. But as a school district, for us to think that we can be in isolation and figure all that out on our own is not a good plan. We got to do it in conjunction with your local economy and with your industries, so you understand what the needs are, all right? And that's a lot about what this is about. So that's the innovative approaches. It's also about each individual learner. Everybody's path is different. It also is about supportive pathways to excellence, all right? So you can look at that little I guess, equation there. It's collaborative, innovative pathways. Each student is the vision. As far as the mission of the school district, we try to be a model school district that creates an engaging experience. So think about what engaging experience means. It's one thing to be in a classroom and get a lesson. It's another when that lesson comes to life, it becomes relevant in the workforce. That makes a huge difference, right? All of a sudden, oh, now I understand why I'm learning this. It makes sense. And then it's their future and whatever skills are necessary for them as they move on. So again, just a simple equation: model, engaging skills, their future. So that's what the work we did collaboratively to reshape the vision and mission of the school district, and it lines very much with what you're going to hear in terms of the new Career Center. So I'm going to switch it over to our K-12 career counselor and Career Center coordinator, Mr. Westcott, and he will take it from here.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell, and thank you to the Board of Education for supporting an initiative like this. This is exciting. Today was my first official day stepping in to the role, and obviously there's been a lot of work that's been happening behind the scenes, and I'll point to a couple site visits that I went on with Mr. Francisco, Mr. Farrell, and Mrs. Hain. And we went to SUNY Broome first because we're checking out colleges. What are the colleges doing in terms of this? I remember the Career Center when I went to college. It doesn't look like the Career Centers on campuses nowadays. And so we went to SUNY Broome, got to get a feel for that. That was great. I started to get excited. And really I wasn't totally a part of this role in the way that I'm about to be. And then we went to SUNY Binghamton. And then we saw the power of what a career center not only can be on the collegiate level, because that's not what we're going for, but how can we embed that into what we do in our district. And I said to Mr. Farrell, how can I be more a part of this? And so thank you to our administration for letting me be more of a part of this. I'm very excited. So the Career Center is going to be those things that you might have thought about as a career resource for students in their transition out of OFA. But if it's just that, then it's not doing all of the things that really what we're envisioning it doing. The Career Center itself, as being the coordinator, is a hub. And it's placed in the center of OFA for a reason. It's a central resource point, not only for the students of OFA, but we're envisioning for all of the students of the district, whether you are coming through the district or you're a graduate of that district. And what we're going to try to do is make it a connection place, not just for, I want to go to college. You just point to some significant stats. If that's all we're doing in this day and age, we're missing the mark. It's connecting employers, it's connecting students with those employers, it's teaching students about what the workforce is wanting and needing. Because right now we're sensing, would it be so fair to say there's a disconnect right now? We're hearing from employers, and we just now detail what we got to see 2 weeks ago with our key business partnership meeting with our key businesses, that we had about 60 people in our collaborative space upstairs where we presented and tried to make connections with our community businesses. And the things that we're hearing are pointing to the initiatives that we're about to head out on and the things that we're trying to connect the whole district. So the Career Center is going to be that hub, and we're looking forward to the opportunity in the near future to host businesses, to talk to our students about what those businesses mean, what kind of skills they need. We're looking for the opportunities for employers to post their jobs and to connect students on our campus in a section where we can have an interview room where they can interview right on our campus. We're looking for opportunities for our students at the high school to learn about those things that employers need. But not only that, but also do some real formative stuff when we talk about getting your job skills ready, getting your interview skills ready. We hear soft skills all the time, right? What are soft skills? Well, that's going to kind of go with the next part of what I'd like to talk about, and that's the role of a K-12 career counselor. The idea is to provide those initiatives all across curriculum to connect the world of work with our students. And there's already great things going on. I mean, I can think back to going to school myself. When I was going to school, I had to stand up and tell my class what a funeral director was, which was kind of weird, but that's what my dad did. And so you'd have, my dad come in, he was also town supervisor, so he was super proud, and he wanted to talk about that. But there was lots more questions on the funeral home side of things, but we won't go there. But that whole idea, there's integrated career information. If I asked Carrie Luke, what are you doing in classes related to career, she'd probably, well, we're already doing this and this and this. But we have to connect those experiences. We have to make sure that there's a common language across the curriculum. So without taking up a whole lot more time, but that's the idea behind those curricular ideas and mapping those things out, just like teachers would map out curriculum. So the Career Center, and let me just go back 2 weeks ago, we had the Key Business Partnerships meeting where we partnered with with really kind of putting it out for the Tioga Chamber of Commerce. We used their contacts and invited these businesses in to not only hear what we had to say here to you in terms of the vision of the Career Center and how it could be important for them, but also, more importantly, to hear what they had to say and to get them to work cooperatively together. So we had an activity where businesses were telling us what were their human resource needs, what were their other needs that we weren't thinking about, and then we split people up into 10 groups. And it was really interesting to watch. We had the objectives, but within every group in the whiteboards, there was this communication that was going that we didn't necessarily intend or think that was going to happen so organically, where they were not only communicating with their group, but they were really getting to some of the information that we want to move forward with. And then Mr. Daly, Mr. Farrell kind of tied it into what we want to do, and we found that it was a match. So really excited about that moving forward. Mr. Daly, Mr. Farrell, and I met briefly today just to talk about our next time getting out there and seeing what we can do to reach out to some of the businesses that weren't able to get there 2 weeks ago, so we can start to partner with them. And then I think that's it.
And then I'll interject too. So one of our goals out of that meeting was to have people sign up to be key recruiting partners, to be partners with the Career Center. So we had 15 businesses sign up and say that they're interested, which is double what we thought. We were thinking 10%, we got 20% of the participants. So now we'll follow up next steps with them. And Mike's going to talk about some of the pieces that will come with the partnership part of that. Before we go on to the Mike's part, I want you to think just real quickly, and I did this with the businesses as well. Can you remember your first job? Do you remember their first job? Do you remember what you learned on it? Anybody want to say out loud what you learned? Personal skills. Persistence.
Yep.
So the ability to just work through a job, work through a problem. Now you only get that experience. That's not to say you can't do that in school, but school is different. And when a kid walks into school, it's a little different than when they react to that third party, that employer. The game changes for them. And that's one of the things we're trying to get at, right? For me, I have the experience of working for my parents for years. Jace gets to work at the restaurant, right? So he already knows the public relations part of this, right? Or he has it. So it's being able, not every kid gets that. They don't. And so what we're trying to get at is to be able to partner with community members or community businesses so that kids can gain a little bit more experience, because I would argue that that's what's really going to matter when you go out there, right? Are you going to show up on time? Are you going to be able to communicate with adults? Are you going to shake someone's hand and look them in the eye? Are you going to be able to have the written resume the right way, the right letter? Did you dress appropriately? Did you do all those little things? We can't assume they know. We cannot. And that's where we're taking this. So I'll turn to Mike for partner part. So.
Second week in a row, I went behind them, and there's not much left to say when they're done. But that's all right. I just going to go through quick some of the things that we want to get out of it at the upper levels. All right, and even the lower levels go as well, but my focus, right, is on the work-based learning and the things like that maybe happen external of this campus or internal, but with people outside of our staff. And some of these have already been touched on, like advertising positions within the Career Center, meeting and interviewing with students, and some of that will be for positions. Hopefully we can get employers to come in and they're going to interview our kids and say, hey, we got some juniors and seniors for you, but the only way they're ready to do this, if we do it before them, will you interview a couple of our 8th and 9th graders before you meet with potential candidates?
And I've had some people say, hey, I'm not having a job opening, but I want to help them with some interviewing skills, which is really cool.
Yeah, so those things, all those things are going to open up. So we couldn't possibly list everything that we hope to get out of this there, and we don't even know what it is yet. That's the cool thing. As this evolves and other people start adding to it, the businesses start like, oh, yeah, that'd work. We could utilize that. We could use you for that, and that sort of thing. So tours, field trips, internships and co-ops obviously are the ultimate if we can get businesses to do that, and job shadowing. We've talked about having career fairs where instead of kind of reverse of what we've done, but all the co-ops, as we develop our co-ops, have those people come in, right, and have it be kind of reverse there. The kids go through and they interview, like it's a career fair thing. You know, just a lot of different ideas bouncing around right now between Tom and I. And two of us get together, and nothing short of ideas, that's for sure. Now, how many of them are attainable, but we want to get there. But the big thing is all of it to me is the opportunities, right? And that's where my role is, to really reach out to those businesses and tell them what we can offer them. They all want employees. Everybody, almost everyone, needs employees, all right? And what they can offer us. And that goes beyond one or two students, right? We want to be able to send our kids like we are right now to Lockheed, but also bring something back to the kids in the classroom. So those partnerships kind of go back and forth and back and forth. And I think that's really the big thing, is how we can have a reciprocal relationship that benefits us in two ways. And that's my focus and our focus, I think, for a way to benefit the community and the kids at the same time, and really push that at all levels.
I know, as myself, when I go places, I've been promoting it also. I went to Car Star for my car today, and I was talking to the gentleman that's in charge there and telling him what we have available here. And he was saying that his two painters up in Hillcrest both did not finish high school. Of course, we don't want that, but they are making over 100,000 painting cars.
And I'll give them a plug. They've also agreed to work with our heavy equipment who's doing that, and our Winter Circle project that are building the car, and Car Star is going to paint.
Awesome.
Since you brought them up, I want to give them a plug there. And so that's part of the second group. They're actually one of the names that came up that, like, we missed, not that we missed, but we cut it off at a certain point because we only wanted so many people. But that's in the second wave, people like that and more focused groups to try and get more of those.
I'm just saying, I'm so excited about it that any place I get a chance to plug it in, I do, and I did today.
Thank you.
So I'm glad.
Yeah. And we'll be able to, the nice thing is that in the next couple of weeks we'll provide people that are interested in kind of that vehicle. Now we have contact people.
Right.
So there'll be a central location where we can log that information and make sure that when people are stepping forward with interest, that there's follow-up. Because that's the part that, we've got a lot of great initiatives going on, no doubt, but there's that ability to be able to stay on top of that, keep up with it, and keep those people engaged, so they're engaged with our students.
What we hope is it's valuable enough that, like what you did today, but that the businesses we work with start being our advertising, right? We're hoping we don't have to be writing people in the future, that this business person talks to this one, like, you really want to get involved in that. Like, this is the value I've seen, and that will be more valuable than any amazing letter that comes out of Mr. Farrell's office.
I can write pretty good letters.
But, that's the grassroots part of it, that I think they had a really good experience there, and if we can follow up with that, it will feed itself as we move forward.
And the informal feedback that we received from that event 2 weeks ago, and
I heard some of it also myself.
It's wild because you're anytime you're trying, and it was not just us. It's obviously a big wide group of people from the district that had put a lot of hours. That guy right back there, Luke. Yeah, you. Mr. Francisco, leadership team from the high school. Lots of people pitching in and putting some things forward. The informal feedback was really good, and it's like you're conditioned, like you're waiting for but you forgot this and you did this, and we figured out some things that we want to do differently next time, but we really received a whole lot of great feedback, so we're just looking to build on that momentum.
What's amazing is you don't know all the businesses that exist here.
Right.
You don't.
No.
I didn't know. Like, you start seeing the list, I'm like, really? And you start to meet everybody. Well, we probably don't know. Kids certainly don't know, which is another whole piece, right? And if you want kids to stay here, which we do, I do, right? And we ought to know what's around, and what's available, and what's the opportunity, because you can't assume they don't. It's highly likely they don't. And That's also part of it. So you can think about it. It's not just in Owego, it's outside of us in bigger than Owego as well. I mean, so this is going to be somewhat of an organic process as we go through it. And we've also hired a consultant who has done this work before to work with us a little bit, just to give us some decent ideas and planning out the next year. And there's the whole marketing aspect of it to try to get the word out. And the hope is that I can see Mr. Westcott all the way to kindergarten. Conversation starts that little. This leads somewhere.
Right.
You're not just coming here every day for, which is going to be hilarious watching.
I'm coming to that first.
Right? But it leads somewhere. For us, for a lot of us in here, we take that conversation naturally, right?
It's just something as simple as our fire department is they're starving for volunteers.
Yeah.
But then a handful of those volunteers go on to be true firefighters.
Right.
Right here in Owego.
Correct.
Or EMS, or any of that stuff.
Right.
And if you offer the opportunity to showcase not only what we see of the wonderful, amazing resource of what that job is, but all the other aspects of people in the field and what makes them a part of our community. What other things do they do? Right? What other interests? When you're volunteering, it doesn't mean you're totally committed every day all the time. You can give this. So there's where that information gap can really help, and that could help advertise the position right there.
Yeah.
So lots of different avenues. It's exciting.
Other questions? All right.
Nice job, you guys.
Thank you.
Moving on to district business, item 10.1 is the adoption of the school calendar. I need a motion.
So moved.
Linda? Danny? Any comments, questions?
I have a quick question.
Okay.
And I'm sure you can answer this quick. We used to have a vacation in February and then a Easter vacation. Why don't we have that anymore? And I know that was years and years ago, but I just feel like there isn't enough.
Breaks.
Well, just
I'm
a
not
little
sure
bit.
when it transpired. That was back probably
So we had
7, 8 years ago, right?
Yeah, we had it. Most of the state
Most of
does.
the states. Yeah.
But down here, it was decided, and sorry, this is CSOs that make this decision, so I have to defer. The regional decision gets made at the regional level, and then they did away with the winter break.
Okay.
And the theory was, from what I remember, is that the wealthy can go away and those who don't cannot. And therefore, are home for a week in the middle of the winter.
Gotcha.
Right.
That was the understanding. And then it got switched. Does that make sense? That's what I remember.
Yeah. There were a lot of complaints back then about people complaining that it was the wrong time of year.
It's just not a great time of year, and you're sending kids home for a week, and they're stuck in the house. So.
Right.
All right, thank you. Just
Good question. Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried. Okay. 10.2 is the second read and adoption of the Section 1000 Community Relations Board policies. I need a motion.
So moved.
Kathy? Danny? Any questions, comments? All in favor? Aye. That's carried. 10.3 is the Section 2000 School Board Operations. Need a motion?
So moved.
Linda?
Second.
Jason? Questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried as well. And section 10.4 is, 10.4 is section 3000, duties of the superintendent. My favorite. I need a motion.
So moved.
Linda?
Second.
Stace, any questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
That's carried as well. And 10.5 is just a first read of section 6,000 that Marcy sent out. And that's the fiscal section of the policy, so that's just a first read. So, okay, moving on to public comments. I have my list here, and I'll ask folks to please stay within the 2-minute time limit. And starting off, Terry, would you like to go first, please?
So, good evening. This past week, I guess there were some lessons presented in a 10th grade health class that were on some hot button topics. The topics of sexual orientation and alternative gender identity. Students were also asked to fill out a survey that was put together by Cornell that collected a lot of very personal sexual data. A reminder that these students are approximately 15 years old. I just wanted to give you a sample of some of the questions that were asked in this survey. I don't think any of the kids are remaining in here, okay? During the last 3 months, how many people did you have sexual intercourse with? During the last 3 months, how many times did you use a condom? Have you ever been told by a doctor or a medical provider that you had an STD? Bear in mind that these kids are 15 years old. And while I know that sexual activity at that age is not uncommon, maybe we shouldn't be collecting data on that. I mean, think of how you would feel if your employer asked you those very same questions and school district. I did go through today and read the entire New York State standards for health education. And nowhere in these standards does it require either of these topics to be taught. The sexual orientation or gender identity. Since the board deals with school policy and those areas, and the superintendent as well implements, I think it would be well within your purview to either prohibit that teaching or to at least enact something to allow parents to opt out of that particular section of teaching for their children. This is not, I know there are parents that are all in favor of it. There's many parents that aren't. I think this is something that we should really recognize, and we should respect that within families. And so I don't think that it would impact, let me put it a different way. Giving parents the ability to opt out easily would not impact the school's responsibility in terms of state requirements. We would still be able to meet every state requirement in the standards and be able to help families to do what they want to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. Okay. Moving on, Brian Kinney.
I got my questions answered.
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Wendy.
I'm going to take what Terry said a little step further. Brought some visuals for you. Some of you are going to have to share. I'm printing them off. You guys can share. You guys can share. brought to my attention last week. As Terry said, I'm just curious who's in charge of going over content and improving content for schools, like what the teacher teaches.
Well, there's a curriculum.
Right, who approves it? Is it
It gets approved every year.
through you guys, through the board? So you guys are aware then of the TED Talks that they were forced to listen to,
Not necessarily.
where it says pizza is the way to think about healthy, satisfying sexual activity. And in the TED Talk, it also said, if a young person, specifically often a young woman, is old enough to have pubic hair, she's old enough to have sex with. These are the things being taught to our children in 10th grade. Then, they were made to do a little activity where they had to make pizza together. And then, they were given these questions to fill out. And in those questions, what really enraged me as a mother was identify or list internal or external reasons why a person might choose to become sexually active. Or what are the factors, the toppings of one pizza that go into decision making and communicating when ordering, engaging in sexual activity with somebody. I don't know how that has to do with health or the reproductive system, but apparently it does in this class, and I don't want my child learning about it. And I've gone to the school several times, and I've gotten, oh, don't worry about it, we'll investigate, we'll look into it. You know what the end result was? My child being shoved in an ISD room by herself, given the same content just to learn on her own, which she's not happy with me. Then, the survey, which I left in there so you guys can read it. This, I wouldn't even feel comfortable filling out in my doctor's office, especially putting my name on it or giving it to the state. This survey, how old are you? Starts out at 10 years of age. No 10-year-old should be asked the question of how many times have they had sex or if they have an STD. But yet, our children are being taught this in health class. How do I opt out of this for my child? She's still in this class. How do I get my kid away from this perversion? Because that's what it is. I need answers, and so far, the solutions are, sorry, you needed to graduate.
Have you spoken to Mr. Francisco?
Yes, matter of fact, I have.
Okay.
And came up with a solution to put my kid in a room. And today, she was in that room and she told me that she was learning all the same stuff on the computer. I did not know. The only reason I knew that this content was even being taught was because another parent shared it.
Typically, there could be an alternate activity.
Okay. So, do parents know this? Because I didn't know this till I saw this, that my kid was being taught that sex is like pizza. That's it.
Wendy, this was actually the presentation that was given in the class.
Yeah, all the information I got right from their tablet, or from my daughter's tablet.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but aren't the parents supposed to give permission for this class?
Survey.
Oh, the survey?
Survey.
Yeah. So the parents would have to approve it normally.
Yeah, I was going to say that. My parents
we realized that wasn't the case, but that would normally be the case, right?
Yes.
That you would be asked first before for your permission. If you say no, then it's no. And that's the way it should be, I would think.
I mean, that's the way it has been in the past. I mean, when I was in school, we didn't have nearly anything like this. And this is just the, the beginning of what I've learned that was being taught in this class. And this stuff didn't get taught to us when we were kids. And the little bit of, if we had to watch a video, there was a consent form that had to be sent home. And if the teacher didn't receive it, we had to sit out. There was no, being on a tablet, having access to a man talking to adults about sexual things. So, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Mr. McNamee.
What the past two people just spoke about kind of knocks me off my feet. I don't want to get into it, but what business does the school, the government have asking kids questions like what was described here?
Technically, it depends. I mean, it depends on the question. I mean, if this wasn't shared with the principal to approve, so it becomes difficult to know. But there's certainly a line, right? I mean, there's a line of where you should and shouldn't be, and something like this should be evaluated.
Oh, okay. So you're a little caught by surprise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Sure like to hear about this at the next meeting. That's disturbing. Want to say again that that academics have been improving here. This school digger compilation really just adds another gem to the crown. Toot your horn. When I moved here 40 years ago, the realtors, which I talked to a number of, kept saying, go to Vestal, they've got the best schools. 10 years ago, I asked realtors, where would you tell a young family to go? Vestal. Let's make it a Weagle. New York State on a week ago, Friday, came out with teacher salaries. 10 years in a row now, we've had the highest teacher salaries in the southern tier. That's 67 school districts. And adjusted for age, that gets the early years at the top. And highest doesn't necessarily mean the very top one. It could be the highest 3 or something like that. But adjusted for salary, for age, we've been the winner for a long time. So that's just information. I gather that's the policy manual you were talking about.
Yep.
The last thing there. Right. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. With that, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Danny?
Second.
Linda? All in favor? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.